My ex-boyfriend invited me to his wedding. The intention was clear, to show off his rich fiancé. Little did he know that my +1 would change everything in the most unexpected way. I, 23 at the time, and Anthony, 31, met when we were working part-time at a coffee shop in the city. I was still in college, saving up money to finally move out of my parents' house. Anthony, on the other hand, was drowning in student loans. His parents were heavily in debt and couldn't support him financially. In the beginning, we bonded over talking about our families, but we soon realized that we simply enjoyed spending time together. 2 years later, I graduated and had enough money to live on my own. Anthony, however, was still struggling with debt and couldn't move out of his parents' house. That's when I offered for him to move in with me. Unfortunately, because of his debts, he couldn't even cover his share of the rent. I decided that I would pay 80% of the total, and he would only need to cover the remaining 20%. "I can pay the 20% without a problem," he said immediately, with a smile. Besides rent, we split utility bills equally. Although we had different jobs, his was more manual, requiring long hours on site, while mine was an office job with a more flexible schedule. My boss didn't care if I worked in the office or at home, as long as I met my monthly targets. Anthony's work schedule often prevented him from helping me at home. As a result, I took care of the dishes, laundry, cleaning, and cooking. I didn't mind doing all of this, as I understood how demanding his job was. However, I did ask him to take out the trash, as he was always the last one to eat between us. Unfortunately, Anthony always forgot to do it, leaving the trash for me to take out every morning. I remember one time, on a weekend, I had to go out to work. When I came home, I found our apartment a complete mess. The kitchen counter was overflowing with dirty dishes, empty food wrappers, and chocolate papers scattered everywhere. Laundry had piled up, and the trash hadn't been taken out. I was furious. After a long day at work, I was exhausted and just wanted to rest. But looking at the house, I simply couldn't. Knowing about the mess, I spent the entire day cleaning, hoping Anthony would notice and appreciate my effort. When he finally came home, he greeted me with a hug and told me how much he missed me, but he didn't even seem to notice the difference in the house. Immediately, he sat down to watch the game, leaving me feeling unappreciated and frustrated. I started to cry. I don't know if it was exhaustion, lack of sleep, or his lack of appreciation for me, but I realized for the first time how little he thought of me. He looked back and asked, "Something wrong?" I shook my head, pretending to be fine. "No, I'm okay. I'm just ready to go to bed." Before leaving, I reminded him once more to take out the trash, and he nodded in response. But, as you can probably imagine, the next morning, the trash was still there. I lost my patience when he came down to the kitchen and asked me for breakfast. "If you want something to eat, you can cook it yourself," I said, my voice full of anger. "You're being rude," he replied. That's when I started to scream. "Rude? And what are you? Useless around here." He blinked, as if he had done nothing wrong. "Don't be so dramatic." I took a deep breath, trying to calm down. "Why do you never take out the trash?" "I forget to do it," he said, with an apologetic tone that didn't convince me. "And what do you do at home, besides coming back and sitting in front of the TV with a beer?" "I'm always tired after work. I deserve my time." "I agree you need your time to relax. But what about me, Anthony?" My voice choked up. "After work, I come home, start cooking for both of us. I clean the house, wash our clothes, iron your shirts for the week. And the only thing I expect from you is to take out the trash." "I never asked you to do any of that," he retorted. "I have a very challenging job, and as my girlfriend, you should understand that and help me. Doing these things is no big deal. My mom does the same for my dad." When I heard that, I got really angry. I realized that despite working so hard at home, I was letting him manipulate me, even without being married. I looked straight at him and said, I won't do anything else around the house to help you. I am not your mother, and we are equals. You need to cook your own food, wash your own clothes, iron your own shirts, take out your own trash, and clean up your own mess. Anthony's eyes widened and he began to protest. But I raised my hand to stop him. What's more, you also need to pay 50% of the rent or move out. Anthony was shocked. Where did this come from? I'm tired of working so hard for you and not feeling appreciated. He obviously wanted to say more, but I left the house, as I was late for work. This was the first time in my life that I set such strong boundaries, but I didn't feel guilty. I kept my word and only cleaned my own things, doing nothing extra. It was satisfying to see him rushing around the house, trying to find clean clothes or iron his shirts before work. He didn't wash dishes or take out the trash, waiting for me to do it for him. I refused to wash, even when the dishes started to pile up and smell. I decided to eat from takeout containers so I could throw away my trash without having to go to the kitchen. He tried to talk to me several times. You should be a good partner and take care of me, he insisted. But I stood firm and unyielding to his demands. When it was time to pay the rent, I deposited 50% of the amount to our landlord and informed her that Anthony would pay the remaining 50%. He tried to come home and argue with me. You should pay 80% like before, he shouted. You never appreciated me when I did that, I reminded him. I won't help you anymore. He tried to make excuses, but in the end, he had to pay his share of the rent to the landlord. Throughout this time, he never apologized to me. He never sat down with me and expressed any remorse for not valuing the work I did at home. It was disappointing that he never acknowledged that I was right about the situation. Looking back, I regret not realizing who he truly was sooner. In the following months, our arguments only got worse, with him blaming me for everything and trying to manipulate me into returning to my old habits. I got a promotion at work, and that seemed to be the last straw for Anthony. One of our mutual friends, who is also my colleague, must have told Anthony about it, because that night was the worst fight of our relationship. Anthony came home drunk and woke me up, yelling that he needed to talk to me. He had a terrible hangover from celebrating with his friends that night. Can we talk tomorrow, Anthony? I asked, drowsily. However, he kept insisting. No. I need to tell you something important. Sleepy and annoyed, I sat up in bed just to make him stop. What's so important that you have to wake me up in the middle of the night? That's when Anthony started telling me, drunkenly, how he had met someone at work. I knew the woman he was talking about because I had seen her at one of his office parties when he took me. Her name was Victoria, and she was in her early 20s. She was the daughter of an industrialist and clearly very wealthy. The only reason she worked was because her father insisted she needed professional experience. Anthony went on to say how he was falling in love with her because, according to him, she was a real woman, unlike me. I looked at him without emotion, as I honestly didn't care or feel bad hearing that, as I should have. I knew our relationship was dying anyway, and we were practically roommates at this point. He continued to talk about this relationship, but I interrupted him mid-sentence. Anthony, to be honest, I don't care that you're dating another woman. In fact, I'm happy for you. Anthony looked at me, his brow furrowed. Are you jealous of this new girl? I smiled and shook my head. Jealous? No way. I'm happy you found someone, because now I won't feel guilty about breaking up with you. Anthony got annoyed hearing this, and his face changed color. Your new promotion at work is the reason for your confidence, isn't it? My promotion has nothing to do with our relationship, I said calmly. I've realized over the past few months that we're no longer compatible. We've become more like roommates than romantic partners. That's why I understand why you wanted to see someone else. I thought Anthony would be happy to hear me say this, but instead, he started yelling. I hate modern women like you who flaunt their careers. Victoria is a much better woman because all she wants is to get married and have kids. Despite his yelling, I remained calm. Every woman has different needs, Anthony. Victoria clearly comes from a wealthy family, so she might not care as much as I do about her career, but I like my career. I continued. If you want a woman like Victoria, then you should be with her. We shouldn't argue about this anymore. You can leave our apartment as soon as you can. His eyes widened. How would you be able to pay the rent by yourself? I got a raise in my salary, I explained. I'm now able to pay the entire rent without needing roommates. Upon hearing this, he started yelling. You're trying to show off. Victoria is richer than you and even has her own house, which her father bought for her. You need to change and become more compliant. He then scoffed at me. At the end of the day, men want a housewife and not a woman who can earn more than them. At this point, I lost my temper. Shut up, Anthony. I'm tired of arguing with you in the middle of the night. You have until the end of the month to move out, and until then, you can sleep on the couch. I could hear him still muttering, but I ignored him and went back to sleep. Fortunately, throughout the week, Anthony started packing his things and slowly moving out. I was beginning to get excited, thinking about the prospect of finally having the whole place to myself. On his last night, when I came home, I was shocked to see Anthony and Victoria sitting on our couch. I looked at him curiously. Why is she here? I asked. It's my last night here, he informed me. I wanted to show Victoria where I lived. I couldn't believe his audacity to bring another woman into that place without asking me, knowing I'd be back. I didn't want to be rude to Victoria. After all, I thought it wasn't her fault, and I shouldn't be rude to a visitor. Gently, I greeted her. Hello, Victoria. To my surprise, she looked at me scornfully and didn't even bother to greet me back. I decided not to take it personally and went to get ready. Later, as I was cooking pasta for myself in the kitchen, Victoria came to get water. She stood watching me for a minute, which made me uncomfortable. Do you want something? I asked. But she gave me the same disdainful look as before. I decided to ignore her presence and continue cooking to take my meal to my room and eat in peace. After I finished eating, as I was about to go downstairs, I overheard Anthony and Victoria talking. You were lucky to have upgraded after dating someone like her, Victoria was telling Anthony. I froze in shock upon hearing Anthony laughing and agreeing with her. Why did you even fall for her? Victoria asked. That's when Anthony said something that completely shattered me. I used her. She was naive enough to pay for our dates when we went out and used to lend me money in college. He even revealed that I had paid more than half of his rent for the past 2 years, which allowed him to save a lot of money. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. I always suspected he might have used my good nature to pay more than half of his rent, but I had no idea he had been using me from the very beginning. Victoria and he then continued to talk about our relationship and basically mocked me in every way. I was about to burst into tears because of how humiliated I felt, but I didn't want to let them see me in that state. So, I silently went back upstairs and spent the rest of the night crying softly into my pillow. The next morning, when I woke up, Anthony and Victoria had already left. He had packed his last belongings and officially moved out. I walked around the house in the following days and knew I was finally free of him. I can't describe how light I felt knowing he had finally left my life and that house. I cried tears of joy and danced around the house. Then, I started cleaning the entire place so there would be no memory of him anywhere. In the following weeks, I greatly enjoyed living alone. I had stopped caring about what Anthony and Victoria had said about me. Everything was going well until 2 months later, when our mutual friend informed me at work. Anthony is getting married to Victoria, he said, with a hint of surprise in his voice. I was surprised, as everything seemed very sudden. Our friend showed me the engagement photos, and they looked very happy together. Although I felt a slight pang of sadness about how Anthony had used me for all those years, I also recognized that I would never have been happy with him anyway. So, I was pleased that he had found someone who could make him happy. That same night, when I came home and checked my mailbox, I found an unexpected wedding invitation. My eyes widened in shock as I realized it was from Anthony and Victoria. I started thinking that maybe it was a mistake or that he had invited me just out of courtesy, until I opened the invitation and saw that he had scribbled something in the corner. Written inside the card was, "I want you to attend my wedding so you can see the great life I'll have with Victoria." Slowly, I realized he had invited me only in hopes of showing off his wedding, his wealthy partner, and his newfound richness. I took a deep breath, trying to understand why he would even send me an invitation like that, when all I had done was take care of him over the years. All the anger and frustration I had kept inside me kept bubbling up, and I knew I needed to get revenge. I RSVP'd with a +1. I had a plan forming in my head and was determined to make Anthony regret inviting me. I opened my laptop and started scrolling through Victoria's social media profiles. I scanned every photo she had ever posted and, luckily, finally found what I was looking for. Just 6 months ago, Victoria had broken up with her ex-boyfriend, Gabriel. She had several posts with him, and the photos dated back to high school, which meant they had clearly been together for a long time. I sent Gabriel a friend request from my profile, and when he accepted, I sent him a message. "Hi, Gabriel. I know this might sound strange, but I'm Anthony's ex-girlfriend, and he's getting married to Victoria. I have a proposal for you." To my surprise, he replied, and we started talking. I was upfront with him about my identity as Anthony's ex and told him about my plan to invite him as my +1 to their wedding. He seemed intrigued and curious about why I was reaching out, but I explained everything to him. In the following weeks, Gabriel opened up about how Victoria had cheated on him multiple times, and her last affair had been with Anthony. This was news to me, as I had no idea about that. "She always liked older men," he revealed. That's why I wasn't very surprised when she announced she was in love with Anthony while we were still dating. As you can imagine, they had a very bad breakup, and he had blocked her everywhere, even though she had told him they should remain friends. From the way he talked about Victoria, it seemed like he was still in love with her. I also told Gabriel about my own experience with Anthony and how he had used me for all those years. I vented to him, describing everything Anthony put me through and how Victoria and Anthony had mocked me. "I can't believe he did that to you," Gabriel said, shocked. "And Victoria, that's typical of her." After hearing everything, Gabriel finally agreed to accompany me. I felt excited, thinking about the look on my ex and Victoria's faces when they saw me at their wedding with Gabriel. On the wedding day, as expected, Anthony's eyes widened when he saw me walking in with my special guest. He must have immediately recognized Gabriel as Victoria's ex. We ignored his expressions and pretended to look for our assigned seats. Anthony came up to me and whispered, annoyed, "Why are you here with Victoria's ex?" I just smiled, not responding. He couldn't make a scene in front of everyone and had to reluctantly return to the altar, glaring at me. When it was time for the bride to make her entrance, everyone stood up from their seats. Victoria looked stunning in her long white dress as she walked down the aisle with her father by her side. The ceremony went smoothly, and the celebrations moved to the reception area. Victoria must have gone to change, as she was wearing a different dress when she entered the area. Victoria hadn't noticed me yet, nor Gabriel, when suddenly she saw Gabriel sitting next to me and stopped instantly. Victoria turned to look at me and then at him, perhaps still confused. "Gabriel, what are you doing with her?" she asked, her voice full of surprise. I smiled. "I invited him as my +1, so we could show our support for your wedding." She looked furious. "Are you two dating now?" she asked, her voice a bit louder. Gabriel remained silent, as this was a ridiculous question, and Victoria's face began to turn red with anger. "Victoria, can we talk in private?" Gabriel asked, not wanting her to cause a scene. She nodded solemnly, giving me a nasty look before walking out with him. I turned to look at Anthony, who was watching our interaction with wide eyes. Although Anthony looked worried, There wasn't much he could do, as he had to sit there pretending everything was fine. The party continued and everyone seemed to be having a good time, but an hour passed and the bride didn't appear. Several guests began to notice and whisper among themselves. Victoria's father started to look worried and asked one of the bridesmaids to go check on his daughter. A minute later, the bridesmaid came running back, holding a note in her hands. Victoria ran off with her ex-boyfriend, she announced in front of everyone, shocking them all. Everyone was stunned. The bridesmaid continued to read the note, where Victoria admitted that seeing Gabriel had brought back all her lingering feelings and that she had made a huge mistake marrying Anthony. The revelation shocked the guests even more, leaving Anthony standing there, humiliated and exposed. I was also quite shocked because, although I had brought Gabriel as my +1 to annoy Anthony, I never imagined things would turn out this way. Anthony looked ready to bite someone's head off. Victoria's parents kindly asked everyone to leave and offered profuse apologies for what had happened. I watched as Anthony, previously proud and arrogant, stood there alone, completely surprised by Victoria's decision. Since the wedding, I felt a bit guilty, but at the same time, I can't help but feel satisfied that Anthony's attempt to humiliate me spectacularly backfired. The event, which was supposed to show his triumph over me, became the stage for his downfall. I made a post about bringing a special guest and ruining my ex's wedding, and I've been getting mixed reactions. While many agree that I did the right thing, some think I went too far. I have to clarify that it was never my intention to ruin my ex's wedding, nor did that even come up in my conversation with Gabriel. I have no idea what Victoria and Gabriel talked about privately that made Victoria call off the wedding so quickly. I simply wanted to get revenge on my ex, since he invited me in the first place with the hope of showing off his wedding with a rich partner like Victoria. I had nothing to do with Victoria's decision to leave the wedding. I texted Gabriel asking what had happened, and a few days later, he got back to me. He sent me a long text message, which basically said how grateful he was that I had taken him to the wedding. He told me that he and Victoria went on the honeymoon she was supposed to have with Anthony. They also talked to her parents, as they were very worried about her. He informed me that he would meet me and clarify everything in person very soon. Meanwhile, Anthony has been trying to contact me non-stop since the wedding. He called me multiple times and also sent me nasty text messages, blaming me for the end of his marriage. I never replied to him, nor did I have any interest in getting involved with him. I knew I had nothing to do with Victoria and Gabriel running off together. Days later, Anthony decided to show up at my doorstep over the weekend. At first, I refused to open the door. "Go away, Anthony," I yelled. He kept shouting, "I'm not leaving until I talk to you." I opened the door a crack. "You're not allowed in my house, so you can say whatever you want standing at my door." Anthony started yelling at me. "You completely ruined my life." I had already quit my job, thinking I would never have to work again after marrying someone as rich as Victoria. "Why did you bring Gabriel to our wedding?" I started to get annoyed with him blaming me. "I heard everything, Anthony. That night, when you talked to Victoria, I was upstairs. I know you used me all along to cover the rent and to pay for our dates throughout all the years we dated." His eyes widened in shock. "I did all those things because I loved you, but you clearly had no respect for me. And even when you cheated on me with Victoria, I didn't make a fuss or interfere with your relationship. It was only when you invited me to the wedding and wanted to brag in front of me about the life you'd live with your rich partner that really set me off. You have no right to come to my house and yell at me for something I'm not responsible for. Victoria was an adult and chose to leave you, so you should be angry with her." Upon hearing this, Anthony started yelling back. "It's not my fault you were so naive as not to realize how I was using you for all those years. You shouldn't punish me for the past. Victoria should have changed my life. I could have had everything. I worked so hard to flirt with and seduce Victoria, but you ruined my chance." At this point, his words were so despicable that I didn't want to hear them anymore. "Get off my property now, or I'm calling the police." "You'd never dare do that," he challenged. I picked up my phone to dial in front of his face. He immediately took a few steps back. Hold on. It's not like that. I'm leaving. I closed the door, promising myself that this would be the last time I saw him. Since then, I've blocked him everywhere and informed my family about this incident. I changed the locks on my house and installed a camera at my door so that next time he returns, I can record his behavior and file an official complaint against him. The following month, Gabriel invited me to lunch. When I arrived at the location, I saw Victoria sitting next to him. I immediately braced myself, thinking she was there to start another fight with me, but to my surprise, when she saw me, she smiled politely and greeted me warmly. Hello. It's a pleasure to finally meet you properly, she said, her voice soft. I was a little unsure why she was there, but Gabriel reassured me. She's just here to apologize. Victoria nodded and apologized profusely for the way she had spoken to me in the past. She then went on to tell me her story with Anthony. Anthony was always kind to me at work and gave me a lot of attention, she revealed. Due to their long working hours, we spent a lot of time together, and Anthony always complained about you and your relationship. He'd say how unhappy he was and that he wished he had a prettier girl like me. I started to sympathize with him and felt flattered every time he complimented me. Gabriel and I were going through a tough time, and I ended up getting carried away by my feelings and slept with Anthony once. After that, Anthony convinced me to break up with Gabriel, Victoria revealed. He kept saying that Gabriel wasn't good enough for me. He would continuously text me about how perfect I was for him and that we could have a life together. I felt guilty about cheating on Gabriel, and because of that, I ended up breaking up with him. I thought I could be happy with Anthony, despite the apparent age difference. Victoria then explained how, when she saw me, she felt insecure about my independence and jealous that I didn't actually need a man to take care of me. I'm so sorry for hurting your feelings, she said, remorsefully. I understood her point of view. I've worked my entire life to get where I am in my career. She nodded solemnly, her eyes downcast. I then asked her to explain what had happened during her wedding to Anthony. When you brought Gabriel to the wedding, I was shocked to see him, she revealed to me. I realized, looking at his face, how much I was still in love with him and that I never felt the same way about Anthony. Gabriel then interjected. When we talked privately during the wedding, we realized we both felt the same way about each other. So, we decided to run off together after Victoria left a note for her family. They've been together ever since that day and are very much in love. They said she had talked to her parents about it, and although they were very angry at first, they eventually decided to support her. Victoria was going to file for an annulment of her marriage to Anthony very soon. Upon hearing this, although it didn't completely please me, I was satisfied that at least two people were happy after the disastrous events. I could see how happy Victoria and Gabriel looked with each other. We had lunch, talked a bit more, and then left. Since that conversation, I haven't spoken much with either of them, nor do I want to be part of their drama. But me. I focused on myself. I didn't want to get involved in any more drama. I wasted my precious time on Anthony and didn't intend to do that again with anyone else. I will continue to work hard at my job, dedicating myself to what truly matters to me now. I don't know what will happen to Anthony, nor do I want to know. I want distance from him and his problems. And me. I'm going to relearn how to live well and alone. What did you think of Scarlett's story? Did you relate to her? Tell us in the comments, we'd love to hear. If you liked this story, please like and share this video to support us and subscribe to the channel for more surprising stories.